Hi y'all, this is going to be my week 7 installment of my 52-week challenge of printing one useful item every single week. And for this installment, I'm going to be doing some upgrades to my food dehydrator that I use to fix and dry filament itself. So what I use this for is, you can see I did cut out individual sections from each of these little now you can see it's not quite let me go ahead and grab my tape measure here. Now, like I was mentioning, it's hard to do tension when I am holding this little tape measure here. So you can see it's sitting at 300 and just about 42 millimeters. See here, it is sitting at 345 millimeters, just about. And then the outer diameter is a little bit more at 359. Yeah, so I'll call that 359 as the outer diameter and 345 as the inner diameter. Okay, so here is going to be the installation of the final product for my food dehydrator conversion kit. So in this part of the video, you can see me just showing off every single individual part for the actual dehydrator itself. So this is going to be a raised platform. Each of them are individually numbered. Some of them I did forget, and you could see those black and green parts. Those are going to be actual things that slot in between the two, so that actually makes it so that it gives it a lot more strength. And I basically made them so that they're parallel to the forces. So basically, they're going to be a lot stronger instead of having them perpendicular. And it also made them much stronger because I was able to print them flat. And those are eventually later in the video going to be screwed in. So you can see here, just labeling each one, that's 12. And here's 13, or that will be next. So I ended up having to switch it out a little bit because when I originally did the 13, there was a very small gap that I really didn't like. So I ended up having to redo the actual wood, the little key itself. So that's actually what you're seeing now is just the installation of the last three parts. So it's the last one stopped at 12. Here's 14. I didn't end up showing it. And then you'll see 15. You'll see each one slowly making a circle. And then when you put 16, there's a small gap between the two. That's why I ended up having to make it again, because I had to pull the sides of it 5.5 millimeters each side for a total of 11. And that was able to basically close the gap enough so that it would fully seat itself in between. It can make a full circle. So this is gonna be the basically the finished product for the dehydrators portion. You can see here. Now this is just the buttering up section where basically I am screwing in all the locking screws, you can kind of call them. This is what's going to be locking them so that there's no chance that they move out. I put two threaded inserts, one of those brass threaded inserts in each of these little keys. I can put a link to an Amazon link there in the description of the video if you wanted to get some, but they're super useful for projects like these when you have a blind hole like this and you don't want to do, the other option is you can always embed a nut into the part, but that can be very cumbersome and you'd have to basically do every single one. And I had 16 for each one, so that would be a lot of stopping and starting the print. Threaded inserts are easy. You use a solder gun, you get right to it. And you have basically all the clearance you want. You just have to slot them through. And for this part here, this is going to be the most cumbersome part. Um, the actual geometry of how I designed the riser step here is kind of basically covering a way to get my normal 1/8" bit driver. So I ended up having to switch to an Allen key, and that's not ideal. I wasn't really counting on that, but it did allow me to do it for most of these. However, I do have a better way to do this, and that is using um, a 1/4" ratchet with the bit adapter connected to it. It's got the 1/8" adapter for it, and that makes it a lot stronger. I should have used it when I originally was doing this. You'll see me use it later here, but it's something that I should have used, but like I said, this did end up working. This is going to be the flat portion of it. This is what's going to be what's most of the the holding force of this part is all going to be held in these flat portions. You can see every single one of those slots um, is had a opening that would be for the actual mounting surface for the bucket. So it's connecting to the bucket itself. You'll see that later in the video of what I'm talking about there. You can see each one of these holes is getting two for each side of the part, two countersunk screws. Each one of those is going to be connecting it. See, slotting it through. This took a very long time. This is 5 times speed, and it took a very long time to do each one of these individually. Definitely was some work to actually get these all set up, but I wanted to make sure that this thing would not move at all, and I definitely over-engineered it, very, very much so. You can see here's that 1/4" bit driver. I should have been using it the whole time because you get a lot more leverage compared to that tiny little Allen key. It's much easier to use, and you have the freedom of using any kind of driver or bit for it. And now on this section, this is going to be the actual section where you connect the center part. So each one of these, so there's 16, I guess that'll be 16 um, M3 holes on each side of it. That's basically locking the two parts together and sideways. So this is the actual part that is actually keeping it together so that there's not like as small a gap as possible besides connecting it. This isn't so much the structural part of it. This is only to make sure that they're mated closely together. And this was one part that I should have improved on. If I were to go back, I would definitely make the hole much larger. You can kind of see it in the video of me kind of struggling to actually be able to turn each of the nuts because there's just not enough room to put that 5.5 wrench. There's just no room for it. I didn't give enough clearance. I wasn't thinking. I thought I had enough room, but I only gave enough room for the washer, not so much for the driver. So that's one thing I would definitely change if I were to go back and redo it. But you can see me just kind of just finagling it together, just trying to figure out, just trying to make it work. Eventually it worked out in the end, but like I said, that's definitely something I would improve. Make sure, you always check for these small things. You don't really think about this kind of stuff, how much clearance there is for the wrench that you're going to use for. but it's definitely something to take into account when you are modeling things. It would definitely be in your best interest to make sure that you can drive it, or at least have a way to do that or calculate that, just so you know for sure. And for this next part, you can see me installing the actual mounts to the bucket. So this had a couple different iterations. I originally went with a more simpler design where it's just a flat surface, but I didn't end up liking the look of that, and I ended up, and it also wasn't flat to it, so the supporting bracket, because of the measurements were messed up, and that was found out in the future, I ended up having to set that up later, so I had to make sure that they could locate, and I can make sure that the bucket is going to be fully encapsulated and it's not going to basically be blowing hot air, literally, just all over the place. So this is just basically, you can see it's got a curved surface on the end there, just to give better locating. You can see me mounting it too. I ended up using some N6 bolts, classic 10 mils, and I used a brass washer on the inside of the bucket. I think this is probably overkill. I probably didn't exactly need that, but I just figured it would be easier. It's softer. It's gonna make it a lot easier. I probably could have just went away with, double washering it like normal. Here is me actually slotting in the actual filament itself. There's some black TPU. You can see, put that one in first. Got some blue PETG. This is gonna be all my new filament. You can see all this filament still in the bag. Put it right in. This is gonna be for the first test. Everything is going to be put in. You can see the whole setup. I have riser blocks that I can make as many as I need. So I can fit up to a look. I can fit up to about 5 or 6 rows with it. So that's pretty good amount. 5 or 6 rows all at once. So if I ever need to dry that many rolls, I can easily just throw it in there and it will easily do all that all at once. And that's really useful compared to how it was before. I was not able to even, I was only able to do one roll at a time, and that was very cumbersome, just, for obvious reasons, with being only one. You know, I'm increasing my productivity with the dryer by 5, 6 times just with doing this. So you can see all of these can fit all at once. Me, I'm just opening them, taking right out the bag. Taking here, this is the red PTG. Really good color. I've got another plan with this red PTG. This will be the next part, or this is gonna be the next section for this kind of style of prints. So I'm going to be making a filament printing dry box with that red filament. So keep an eye out for that. That's going to be what I'm going to use for my next project. That's going to be upcoming, so keep an eye out for that. This here is going to be printing the actual, I guess you can call this a support plate. This is what's actually going to be able to hold the filament dryer to the bucket itself. Because of the incorrect measurements with the tape measure, I ended up having to kind of do we can call this a band-aid fix. Well, it's not exactly a band-aid per se, but it's just kind of a not ideal. So those holes on the side originally were going to be for this. I didn't want to use the plate originally, but I ended up needing to use the plate, and that's what it's going to be for. So I kind of crafted a bracket plate that can connect with on both sides. And that allows you to still be able to lift up the bucket. You can still do everything. You can still do everything, lift it up and do all that moving around um, with it being on there. And it's able to distribute the load in three spots. So it still allows you to do that easily. And that's how I was actually able to, you know, connect it to while not having the luxury of having it exactly one to one of what I originally planned. I was able to craft it so that it can be done correctly in any way. So you can see here I'm using some countersunk screws with locking washers as the actual connecting bits. See here, I stripped one of the screws stripped. Definitely didn't need that anymore. You can see, got a brand new one and got the electric ratchet to easily zip these off. Takes about 1 or 2 minutes to literally put it all back, put it on and off. So very easily. And with this design itself, it really makes it secure. It's stable with it. It's level. The bucket provides most of the container. I didn't have to print a whole new bucket, you know, kind of deal. And the bucket's easily rated that I looked up on the website. It's easily able to handle this kind of heat. Like I said, it does get softer like any kind of plastic and heat, but it'll easily be able to hold up with everything. You can see I ended up using multiple different screws. I used the wrong kind. I do have the correct kind with it now. I just ended up using the wrong kind. You can see me now. I can lift it. This has what 4 kilograms of filament in there, so that's about a little over 10 pounds in there. So, and remember, this is all being held in by just the snap fit of 16 different points. So just evenly distributes the load amongst the whole thing. This is me finally testing it out. And now that you see that it's working, you can see this project is done. And with that, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more. This filament dehydrator is officially finished. And I'd really appreciate if I can get this video to over 10 likes. That'd be awesome. Stay tuned for more of my videos. Thanks again for watching. Have a great rest of your day.